Howdy all, we got another one. And this one's kind of a little different than the 7Us that you're used to. This one is definitely sold. This one is not a matching numbers unit. It's a 6U6837, which makes this a 1951 model. But the engine, well, it's completely different. These grousers are in pretty bad shape, and they're bent, they're scalloped really bad. These are probably some of the worst ones I've seen. They're even really sharp here on the sides. This 6U is a seat tank machine, which is really cool, just like our toolbar dozer that's inside the shop. I've also noticed that the 6Us and 7Us, at least the later ones, have these really thick, heavy-duty fenders on here. Now, I don't know if that's something to do with the fuel tank on the seat, because these side tank units over there and there, even that early 7U has the old thin fenders. So, what's the difference between the 7U and 6U? Well, width. The 7Us are wide gauge, as opposed to the narrow 44-inch of the 6Us. Now, this is the same gauge, same stance as our 4G tractor that we're working on inside the shop. That's where most of the similarities end. The final drives are different. Virtually, the engine's completely different. The back of the housing is different. The final drives, the clutches, the top cover, the pony motor setup, all of that's completely different. This one did have the electric start pony motor, which is missing. Also the magneto and the carburetor. All the good stuff are missing. I think the pinion is not froze up, which is one good thing. And this is the first one I've actually stolen parts off of. Somebody had rigged up a block heater on here to keep the engine warm. There was still some antifreeze in here, remarkably, missing the radiator cap, but I've got something on there for now just to keep it plugged up. This unit was also missing the hood, and this is not the correct hood for it. This is for an older D4400 engine because it has the intake up in the front. This is actually off. The 7J parts tractor that's over here that Mrs. Big Stripes is kindly pointing out. It does still have the generator on here, so most of it's here. The pony motor, I think though, is pretty froze. I have not been able to get it to move or move in and out at all, so it's very stuck. The steering clutches, however, they're free yet. Well, one of them. I think with a little work, this other one could be free as well. The main clutch, yeah, it's pretty stuck too. The pedals are showing substantial amounts of wear, right and left. These are probably the worst ones in the bunch. This one, the operator definitely preferred the left side. Transmission appears to have a little bit of oil left in it. That's always a good sign. The gear shifter doesn't gauge and work on here. I'm keeping a little tub over there for now. I'm going to get some buckets out here upside down and cover everything up later. Pony motor dipstick's been bent and it's down here and I cannot get it to move, so we're not going to know for the time being. The tag on the side of the engine is a 3U737. And on the top of the tag, it says motor grader number. So, this is an engine out of a motor grader of some sort. And yeah, I mentioned that I was robbing parts off of this, and I've got it double plugged, but that's where the hour meter was. It was somewhat similar. In fact, the internals would have worked out of the one on 4G, but they're 5 digits. And the one on 4G, it's only a 4-digit. I'm not going to make you wait any further. Yeah, the engine's stuck on this one too. Apologies for the guinea hen over there. She barks like that all day. But they're good watchdogs to have in the yard. And the roosters too. So, with the engine stuck, there's still some usable parts on here. This 6U is definitely the era. Same as this 7U, they're newer. Where Caterpillar, I believe, started making their own dozer blades that they could fit on these machines, and you could purchase them with it. The hydraulic pump has definitely been removed on here, but the cylinders, all of the stuff up here has Cat part numbers on it. And it is definitely not free. I thought that somebody had painted D4 on here, but this is L4. There are some very good things about this tractor, No damage to the track frames. The rollers, they're pretty worn. They've got some substantial wear, but could be rebuilt. Track chains are excellent, which is surprising that somebody took the time to put new chains and not new grousers. And sprockets, they'll go for a little while yet. I always appreciate some of the old welding techniques, even on a crack repair like this. That is something. You can see just how badly broken it was from the inside. Another very cool thing about this tractor is these solid front idlers. Now, that's strength. That's compared to this old 7U that's just a few years older. It's still using the spoked ones. The dipstick is still in here, and inside that fuel tank, it looks really pretty decent. Now on these 6Us, 7Us with the seat fuel tank, they used to have a toolbox underneath here, and this one is completely rusted out and gone. I'm a little worried that most of the pony motor components and even the main engine got a lot of water in it, so I'm not too sure how much usable parts are going to be in it. They've got a oil pressure gauge here, but possibly a water temperature gauge I can redo. I don't know. I got some work to do to find something for 4G, and it looks like I'm going to need to get this clutch compartment covered up as well. I don't really know the history on this tractor too much, but there's a lot of pitting on the surface of even these track frames that I'm not accustomed to seeing on these old tractors. I've even noticed it on the drawbar and a lot of these other components like the final drive housings. Kind of bizarre to me. I don't know if it was covered in dirt, dust, and mud. Who knows? And yes, I could be totally wrong about a lot of my assumptions about dozer blades and time frames and Caterpillar, so I'm not too proud. Go ahead and correct me down in the comments below. Noticing a lot of braze repairs on things underneath there on the water system. Yeah, the water pump, it's moving. Engine's froze. But it is what it is. And it's a D315. Even the battery box, surprisingly, has an intact gauge. We do have a plan in the future to come out here and take the pony motors off of these machines, get them inside the shop where we can store them, and make sure that everything's good and covered up on the main engines. Well, that's it. That's 6U. It's kind of cute. Dad and I kind of like it. Kind of reminds us of 4G. But on the flip side, it kind of reminds us of 4G. I know this video was a little shorter than usual, but that Burt one right over there, it's going to have an interesting story to tell. I do want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. A 6U 80. This is 6U6837. I believe. Hang on. Let's redo this again. Third time's a charm. It's a 6U6837. Wow. So, what's the difference between the 6U and 7U? Well, size. And size does matter. So, what's the difference between the 7U and 6U? Well, width.